Before I call this meeting order, I'd actually like to rise and take a moment to honor Officer Porter, Police Department, for his service. Thank you. All right, this is a school district Menominee Falls Board of Education, Personnel, Finance, and Auxiliary Services Committee meeting. Today is Monday, June 30th, 2025. We are located at the Village Hall Upper Conference Room, 3344, 3345, at W156 and A480 Pilgrim Road. There is a possibility that a quorum of the full membership of the Board of Education may be in attendance at board committee meetings. There will be no full board action at any committee meeting. Only members of the committee may vote on items on the agenda. A live broadcast will be streamed on the school's district YouTube page. To watch the recording, please visit the School District of Menominee Falls YouTube site. And was this meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. I am seeking a motion to approve minutes from the May 19th closed session, as well as, we'll do one first. So can I get a motion for approved minutes for May 19th closed session?
Approve minutes from closed session.
Okay, we have a motion from Jesse,
I'll second.
and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. And then I need a motion for approval for the minutes from the June 16th Personnel, Finance, and Auxiliary Services Committee.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Jennifer motions, Jesse seconds, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. All right, first discussion item is the Police Department building project, and I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, I do appreciate the committee coming together on the 30th, the end of the month. I do appreciate very much the village administrator for making himself available to this board committee. This has potential ramifications for this district office. So I'm gonna give some highlights a little bit for the board, but also for those listening online or those that watch the recording. That in the school district of Menominee Falls, this is the only area, district office, that we don't own. So we own all of our buildings and properties, and we have several other properties without buildings on them. But district office itself is actually a rental. And it costs approximately $100,000 a year when you put in everything to be here, okay? So, and it's a little bit more sometimes depending on utilities, but that's a rough estimate, about $100,000 a year. So we're in the middle of a 10-year lease, right? That was signed by previous administration and the village administrator. There's nothing wrong with the 10-year lease. It's in good order. We have a good deal from the village, and we have a great working relationship with the village and with the police department. Matter of fact, the village administrator and I, we meet monthly and more often as needed, depending on anything that might come up. So he has done a lot for me professionally. I'll give you an example. He has a lot of institutional memory as it relates to the properties in the school district. So he's actually been integral in assisting us in making sure that that information was brought to the forefront in our strategic planning process. So I do appreciate your help with that and everything. He's been here for a good number of years and has a great deal of his own sweat equity into this village. And things are going very well. Something that came up in some of our discussions in our monthly meetings several months ago. He brought up this idea about needing to revamp and expand the police department, make it more 21st century, they needed more space. We had some discussions back and forth, and what you have in front of you is now public on the village website, and it's a project that the village administrator and his team have been working on for some time. I think he's and I'll let him walk through the project and where things are at. But my understanding in our last discussion is a good portion of this project is 100%. There might be some pieces, there's a lot of parts to this project, and there's a complicated funding scenario, which, the village administrator is an expert on, he can answer all those questions. But there is a strong possibility that district office, that we'll have to relocate district office within a year, right? Now, those discussions, we're ready for that, in future meetings, and we've put some planning in place so that we're ready for that, if that becomes a reality. But before we make that step, I would like to kind of turn it over to the village administrator, Mr. Fitzgerald, who's put a lot of work with a lot of his team into what you have in front of you. And like I said, I didn't post this on our website because it's already public on the village website, okay? So I just printed it off from them, the way that it's been publicly posted for weeks now, I believe already, right? Yeah. All right, so why don't I turn things over to Mr. Fitzgerald, and he'll do a light presentation of the project, and then go ahead, feel free to ask questions.
I assume I'll say I have not watched like the latest village board meeting. I'm assuming for people who are looking for a larger presentation that there's a film discussion at a board meeting that people can watch, or?
We actually had 2 discussions in committees of the whole. We do not take committees. So no, that's not the case. That's why this whole document is online, and there will be future presentations as well.
Good first question. Why don't we go ahead?
So, what I gave the district was the full presentation packet that we presented to the board in a committee of the whole on June 16th. A lot of it is probably way beyond the scope of this discussion. But let me give you a feel for the project scope for the police department expansion in this building. There is, and if you've looked through it, you saw that there's another component for a training center for public safety. I won't go into that. That includes off-site facilities that are for police and fire in another area of the village. But if you will go to the 3rd page of the handout, I'll give you a snapshot of.
And I stapled them, and I apologize for
Oh,
I stapled them in the bottom right corner so that you could flip. So page 3, as immediate as you flipped over, it says study goals. So page 3 is study goals.
So let me go right to the 2 aerials on the right side of the page. The top aerial is the existing condition, and the area that we're gonna focus on is obviously the front building and the way this building is assembled in its linear floors. The most critical areas of need for the police department and their expansion are a legitimate front public entrance directly to the police department. Right now, we don't have that. You gotta go through the village hall part, public entrance, to get down to the police department. And that doesn't function well, and frankly, has been a weakness since the day it was designed. We're running out of critical space for parking of vehicles. We don't have a big enough sally port. You're not used to that vernacular. A sally port is where squad cars bring in prisoners and offload them into a controlled, contained, secured area. We have a very, very tight, essentially one vehicle sally port at this point on the north side of the building. The other thing that we need is a 30-year expansion area for the police department and the requisite growth that will occur during that 30-year period. And we've got to catch up. This facility is now pushing 25 years old, and it's getting a little bit long in the tooth in some areas relating to operational facilities, manpower facilities, etc. So then if you go down to the second aerial, that's a schematic of what we would intend to do. And the first thing you'll notice is that area on the far north side that looks fairly as a narrow band on the top picture doubles in size. That would be the underground parking area, and we would double the space available for police vehicles. Police vehicles are always in controlled, sheltered, secured areas because they're responding day and night, all hours of the day and night and all seasons of the year. So we would be expanding that, and to do that, I have to go out to the north of the building, and that area that transitions down to the river, we will be pushing out that way and securing a doubling of the size of the underground parking lot. In that same area, we would also create a 6-vehicle sally port rather than the current small sally port that we have. Then everything else is internal within existing walls, and it's a movement of space to create much more space for secured booking, for manpower space, etc. And if I can just show you some pictures very quickly on the following pages, I'll go through this very quick. The existing layout shows you on the next page, the purple area is the school district, and we're in that now. That's this area of the 3rd floor. That would become absorbed by police department area. And then the light blue areas are functional zones for police department admin, all the control shifts, all the manpower areas, and the police business office, as we call it, where walk-in traffic and the public comes to the police department. Some of the existing police photos, the one on the upper right is that sally port. You can see how small that is. The rest are all just pictures of areas of the current police department that are frankly getting a little bit outdated and need to be larger and upgraded. And then there are some more modern photos of what that would look like, including the sally port with multiple large doors and a lot more room and secured area for bringing in prisoners. The technology, so skipping over to the left, the technology that exists today for evidence processing and all of that, this wasn't even known in 1999 when this building was planned. So all of that is changing, and we need to keep up with the time. So then the next picture is probably the most helpful. The areas that are in light blue and dark blue are the police department areas that would be in the new planned facility. The dark blue is new build areas. So starting on the lowest one, that's the expansion of the underground garage. And you can see we double it. And so if you're familiar with this, that whole side of the building will change, including the access. The access will become controlled only for the police department. There will be no public access on the north side of the building. So the campus will physically change dramatically. Then on the second one up, so what we're calling the first floor, that expansion there symbolizes the Sally Port expansion. That will also be a building addition on the north side, and then there's a small addition on that floor to accommodate some plumbing and HVAC additions that will be needed. When we get to the second floor, there will be a separate police entrance and foyer from the public entrance that currently exists. And you will go right from a separate door for the police department into the police department, which is common and normal, and we've never had that And you may have been in this building when they were walking in or out of prisoners or doing a variety of things. And it's just a very unusual circumstance. We will remedy that, and the front entrance to this building will have its own separate police department entrance. That means that the area that is currently now our engineering and development office will become the new police department business office and the entry foyer. Because we have to get that public accommodation directly into the police department. We will then move engineering and development downstairs to where the current business office for the police department is located. Then this area, where the school district is currently located, will house police administration, command staff, and a variety of operational offices and facilities. They would be up here on this floor, and because of the way the stairway and some ramping can work, there would be a direct connection between this floor and the one down below. Then all the areas that got vacated by those other areas moving into these expanded areas will be expanded for police operations for the long-term 30-year proposal of this plan. So that is essentially the plan, and that means that this area where the school district is currently located would house the police administration, and it's ideally set up. The only thing it doesn't have, and you all are well aware of that, is its own restroom facilities. But because the police department is secured and must have secured access, we would be putting some restroom facilities within the building, and that long walk is not necessary. The next thing I wanna touch on is the schedule. So we asked the architects to give us a typical project timeline, and I want you to kind of ignore this. We're asking them to fast track. What we're looking to do is try and get approvals for this from the village board during the month of July, and then move forward with all of the design development work to get to construction, design and bidding in the first couple of months of the year, and construction would begin in spring of next year, spring of 2026. The project would take probably 14 months, and during that time, the campus would get an awful lot of chaos relative to shifting people and moving things around, particularly in the police department. So there would be new construction, internal renovation, and then a lot of moving things around and sort of staging for construction. The next page, I want to be able to at least give you a flavor. This is approximately a $21 million project. And I've got breakouts there in large categories. We've got full spreadsheets of detail, but this is a breakout of large categories. This is a cost overview, or what an architect would call an opinion of cost relative to the schematic design of the project that has occurred to date. They have not done design development, so this is a cost opinion, if you will, and verified by one of the large building contractors that work in Menominee Falls. They put their stamp for the numbers as well. These numbers include a $250,000 payment for elimination of the lease with the school district. That's embedded in the contingency number, and we would make that a part of the capital cost of this project, if you will. We would be paying for this with public safety impact fees. And for this building, about 74% of the cost of the upgrade of this building can be related directly to new growth. And so 74% of the project cost would come from impact fees. Those get charged at the time of building permit for new growth facilities, such as a home building permit or what have you. And the rest would be general levy debt with our with 20-year bonds to cover the cost of this project.
Mark, could I just jump in? And these are, I'm gonna throw a 30,000-foot kind of question at you, but I think the answer is, I think you'll like where the nature of the question is coming. That if you were to have to do these sorts of things as a standalone building, could you do it for $20 million?
No, we couldn't come close.
Because you have plenty of land, and if you wanted to do a standalone, it would probably be, what, $100 million?
We haven't costed that, but it probably wouldn't be quite 100, but it would probably push well over 50 to 60 million.
Yeah, I mean,
3 times what this is.
So part of the discussions that we have back and forth is like broader discussions about the cost savings to the, I mean, we have similar taxpayers, right? The entire village, we don't encompass the whole village, meaning the school district. And the village has obviously larger portions, but one of the least impact that you can have on taxpayers is obviously renovation rather than building new. We can see that with our project at CE and RAC, you know.
Right.
We're getting a lot of bang for our buck with Riverside expansion because we're growing into CE and RAC. So I just wanna throw that out there as a big picture thing that, you know, and these are some discussions that Mr. Fitzgerald and I have had that it makes sense, big picture, for the taxpayers of the village, to have pretty much a major rental project with some expansions. And obviously there's more here, and that's a training facility we're not gonna talk about, doesn't have to do with this. But I just wanted to put that out there, because I think that's extremely relevant.
It is, the building has about 30,000 square feet of new additional space. A lot of that is Sallyport and garage space, so it's gonna be cheaper built. The rest is all renovation of existing space, and some of it's significant. A lot of new plumbing and HVAC systems, but a lot of it is renovation. Changing office areas, et cetera. So yes, it's decidedly cheaper, and that was a huge factor early on. We made a decision almost immediately to stay here for a couple of reasons. One, the cost factor, and two, we don't really own a parcel of land that would have worked. We probably could have created some way to barter trade or what have you, but we didn't go there because the location of the police department is fairly significant. It's important to the community. It shouldn't be dispersed out. It should be sort of central. This is relatively central, and frankly, it's tried and true. It's well known, and we decided to go with this. Yeah, we think it's cost efficient and also appropriate for the community, so that's why we're doing it. And frankly, I think the building without the police department would have an awful lot of empty space that we don't have use for. These spaces are, the village, short of public safety, won't grow anywhere close to the way public safety will grow over that 30-year period. The only other thing I wanted to say is that as we talked about this, the early discussions that we had were, if this is a non-starter for the school district, let's go there. Tell me, if it's a non-starter and it doesn't work, we'll work through it in other ways. That probably was never the case. It was reasonable, oh no, I think that's something to pursue and could work. So where we are at now, though, I don't wanna mislead you. This is the earliest stages. This is what an architect would call the space planning stage for a major facility. If we have to regroup because it doesn't work, we will certainly do that. The 10-year lease with the school district does not have a bailout clause. And we don't have the luxury of waiting for the 10 years. So that's the reason why we talked about a reasonable basis for securing the rest of the lease with a payment structure. What did, Mr. Munoz, that sounds pretty darn formal.
That's all
David-
right.
What David and I talked about was that it's, in terms of the lease amount, it's about 50,000 a year. The rest is really the utilities, so this kind of cuts to the remainder of the lease, and it's a payout. And it was also tied to the fact that it's a reasonable basis to secure some of the leasehold improvements that the school district did up here on this floor. So that's how we arrived at the $250,000.
And also from the school district side, it helps with any transitions that we're about to make. A lot of school districts our size, for example, Hamilton, New Berlin, their district offices are incorporated in buildings, just as examples of two. One of which we've looked at, plus others. So this is something that, Mark, Mr. Fitzgerald, has given us enough time to put some planning into this. And it makes sense for the district. We do have some space we're looking at. Like I said, we can get into that in future meetings.
So it was a 10-year lease, and what year are we on right now?
Ends in 29.
So I mean, we would be here in 2020, I mean, we either do it now or, I mean, I know you said you can't wait, but 2029, we gotta find somewhere to go anyway.
This is something that Dr. Christensen and I talked about in my first year, that we looked at it and I was like, well, this 10-year lease was sort of here, and it is what it is. And when the initial discussion came up, it's reasonable to look at maximizing the space and to eventually stop paying rent. So just like any homeowner makes the decision, nothing wrong with renting at all. We have great space here and we have great neighbors, right? So we don't have an issue with it. But that being said, we do have space that we can maximize.
This is the second 10-year we rolled, the first 10 years passed during COVID, I forget the year, but that would be 2019. When this was created as a concept to move the school district here for their central offices, for those of you that have been around a while, they were over in Hiawatha. And frankly, Hiawatha was pretty miserable space back then. And the then superintendent and I had conversations and I said, we downsized dramatically back in the day. And frankly cleared out this whole wing of the building. And I said, it would be great to fill it and the school district would be great. And so we went into it wasn't at all a market lease. It was just meant to be a lease. It wasn't market at all. It was $5 a square foot. It's always, I think, worked very well. Hiawatha was pretty poor. Frankly, the server room at Hiawatha was down in the basement and it was damp and wet and it was server crashes all the time because it just was the wrong environment, and those things have been much better here. So it's been a good relationship, and the only reason to end the relationship is for some project like this.
So question, I'll have one question and then maybe open it up to questions from the board members here. When will we know for certain? Like when will money start changing hands and when's that date?
We have our next meeting on July 7th, and we would expect that at that meeting, we would ask the village board to pass a resolution that would accommodate a go on the project to contract for full design services with the architects and move forward with financial advisors for the full debt proceedings. At that point, we would be prepared to also enter into a relatively simple agreement with the school district to work through the current lease and figure out dates certain where the lease could be terminated and you would all be vacating the premises. We have lots of flexibility on that, and so I don't believe that will ever be an issue of concern or stress. We have lots of flexibility. It's gonna be a 14-month project. At the lightest, it's gonna be 14 months. It could go more than that. So I think we'll be able to work through that. And then by next spring, we'll have a kickoff of construction.
So do we have to be out? You said construction would start spring of 2026. Can we still be here for some of it, or
We
is it?
can work through that. We have to talk through all of that and figure out what timing makes the most sense. We haven't done much with that at all.
Yeah, right now, the purpose for expediting this meeting, and I do apologize, I did speak to the whole board about Mr. Fitzgerald, and that's my fault for not having, he has a vacation schedule in that piece of time, or else he was just gonna come to the full board and have the same discussion. But we'll have essentially this without Mr. Fitzgerald at our next board meeting as a discussion item. You know, I'll do a summary of this meeting. Obviously, you, the three of you being present will be able to assist with any, questions or related questions. But Mark and I have gone back and forth about this in a very positive way, in that the police department has these needs, and it's the most cost-effective thing for the entire village. Which we all live here, and I think that's great for everybody. And we have some plans in place. We put some work into it. In terms of the final pieces of the negotiations back and forth, the particulars about all of it, those are things that we'll work out and bring to the board at some point.
And not only the school district, but we use the meeting room here. It's a beautiful meeting room. We have the nice audio video in there. We use this conference room. Is that village hall or the village meeting room, is that the boardroom? Is that still open for us to use in the long term?
Yeah, in fact, we talked about that. If you wanna continue to use it, especially with the way that our meeting dates have always been complimentary, we have no problem with that. The more the better, and the AV in there is far superior than what you would have in most places, so.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's a really good boardroom. I like it. I guess the Storms didn't like it too much.
No, that's been an issue lately. We've lost a couple of hardware pieces during some of these outages, but hopefully that's behind us. But the reality is yes, I like having the school district here. I think it's a great public building and we should use it for all it's worth. So if you wanna keep doing your meetings in there, that works great, that's perfectly fine.
Other questions?
So at our full board meeting, will we have some thoughts on what we would do, where we would go, and what
Yeah.
those costs might be?
Yes, we put months into this possibility. Months. But you know, it would honestly, it should give Mark in the village some time to, this is an enormous amount of work.
Sure.
You know, we've done, I mean, these sorts of things take months and months and months, and there's been workers up here kind of going around measuring things, and sometimes even when we're in our offices, and it's all fun, right? It's all, you know, so there's been a lot of work behind the scenes on this, but we have also put some work in behind the scenes, which we can bring some of that forward. But Caitlin and I and Leah will talk about that before the next meeting. But obviously, we'll start with this, just say, hey, this is the plan. Here's what was, maybe we'll just have we'll go through the audio and look for some highlights from Mr. Fitzgerald's presentations, the Q&A, and then use that as a starting point.
I mean, and as far as the district, we're gonna look at space we already have, we're not gonna
Yeah.
build out Hiawatha or.
No. No, we looked at that actually, to be transparent, that we had enough leeway with this, that, you know, with this project that we have over here with CE and REC and the expansion, we looked at that, we looked at a lot of different options, we looked at leasing, we talked to leasing companies, so we put our due diligence into it, and it really comes down to one solution, and we're ready to move on that. But we'll be ready by the time the board meeting comes along to at least give some initial swaps of what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's important that we have that for the full board.
Yeah.
To realize, you know, our plan, and, you know, try to hone in the costs of what that's gonna cost us as well.
I also think about like the opportunity cost of like, obviously like, we're leaving the pay to build out the new district office space. So then what does that mean for the capital improvement plans that we were going to do in the next 1 or 2 years, and how does that, obviously that's a domino effect, you know, we don't need to go to the 10 years out on that, but
Yep.
you know, what do we have to defer to
make it
in
happen.
this forced move?
We've projected some of those things. So like I said, we've had, Mr. Fitzgerald gave us the blessing and benefit of many months behind the scenes of this possibility. Now that he's through certain meetings with his committees of the whole and those big presentations of this document, we're at this point now, and obviously he has another big meeting on the 7th of July, right? And
One more thing is in our meetings to date, the village board has been, I think David said 100%. The village board has been rock solid on this project. There's a need, and frankly, because of the impact fees and our current rates of growth, this is the time to do it. If we waited for 5 years and lost those impact fees, we would be harming ourselves in this project. And then the second thing, we're very different from the school district in terms of how we do capital projects. This doesn't require public approval. We don't have to go to a referendum, we don't have debt issues. This fits well within our debt limits, way under our debt limits. And debt levy that we're allowed to have, this is not a problem. So this is solely a village board approval, and there is nothing that that would lead me to believe that this project isn't going to be strongly sanctioned by the village.
And this won't cause us a building referendum for us, right? Okay.
no, not at all. We looked at all that. Like I said, we were given the benefit of many months of, we're thinking about this, this is possible. And like I said, we have a very good relationship, not just the village and the school district, but the police department as well. You know, one of the things is obviously safety and security with, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is that when police officers come to work, in most cases, they have a secure area to leave their personal cars. And, that's a part of this project as well, I believe, right?
It is, you might have seen in the original page of what some of our goals were. Finding police officers in this day and age is not easy, and so we wanna have terrific facilities and equipment and capabilities, so we stand out. This building has to be part of that. We are one of the few departments in this region that doesn't have secured parking for on-duty police officers for their private cars. And you would think, well, that's not a huge issue, but it is a huge issue. Cars being in an open lot, which is also shared for a village hall and a library, is just not ideal, so we would be securing the parking area. And frankly, securing the access on the north side of the building, because that's not ideal either. We could have, we have a mishmash of traffic, because a lot of people use this campus to drive around if the lights are not the right color. And that's not ideal, and that would go away. It would be my opinion that the school district, frankly, even if we designed around you, at some point, this facility as a joint campus wouldn't work nearly as well, because parking, access, and some of those logistics will just get more and more difficult.
Yeah, one thing that we have the school district has some parking in back next to the police. And one thing that I noticed, I actually stopped parking back there because sometimes the police, and they're coming in and out, just shift change, and they got stuff going on they have to get to. I just don't wanna get in their way, So there is that. I mean, there's the library and the school district, we have some spots in the back next to police cars. So it's something that we see sometimes as well, and they've got some secure areas that have to be secured and then unsecured in the middle. That's deep in his plan, of course, it's all in here, but we were just sitting on the school district purpose. But if there's no other questions, that's the only agenda item for today.
No, I appreciate the tremendous amount of notice, I think it's good and see your intent, far enough in advance. Yeah, I'm curious to see just on our end, what we come up with for our game plan for the school district. And we do appreciate the partnership we've had with the village. As long as I remember, I don't remember any major issues. So
Except for a little water damage.
Right. Yeah, I think we should need a work session before
I don't know.
just all discussion at the village, at the school board meeting. And then you guys will know more on July 7th, you said is your meeting with the board.
What I would call final meeting to determine go or no go. Yeah.
Okay, it should go, no go, okay. So if it's a no-go, then this won't be discussed at the
And
school.
I think that's extremely unlikely.
Right,
Yeah, if it's a no-go, then it won't be on the
it
agenda.
won't be on the agenda, but, okay, so we'll plan on to go, and then our board meeting is what, the following week, the 14th?
Yep, it's a week later.
And at that point, it will just be discussion only for us.
We'll expand on it, we'll look at the notes and the video from this, we'll take some highlights out from the village administrator's presentation, and then be ready with further information. And we'll also have the decision points out of July 7th village board meeting.
But we won't have any action from our board on the 14th?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. No, thank you for your time and presentation. You guys have any comments, questions?
Nothing further.
Thank
Thank you very much.
It's the only agenda item.
Yeah, so that is the only agenda. So at this point, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Jennifer,
Second.
a second by Jesse. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's unanimous. This meeting's adjourned at 6:29.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for staying late. Or going home, coming back.
Good night.
Good night.